Hey, this is Sri here. Now I know that if you've landed on this video that you're going through a world of pain in your marriage right now, and I know that there's just so much information out there around what to do and what to say, and I know it can be really confusing. And so in today's video, I'm going to talk you through some 3 important ways to save your marriage that's on the brink of a divorce. But in particular, I want to talk you through 3 myths that I hear all the time and I see people making a lot of mistakes around. And in particular, I just wanted to talk you through 3 myths that I want to make sure that you avoid at all costs so that you understand exactly the steps that you need to be taking on this really difficult journey that I know you're going through at this moment in time. Now, in addition to this, I know it can feel really isolating, and you can feel extremely lonely when you're in this amount of pain, and not to mention the amount of uncertainty that can go on through your mind as well, especially when it comes to the fear of being alone, the fear of not being able to handle things financially, and obviously the fear of losing your loved one as well. And so for that reason, I just want to let you know that I'm here to serve you in any way that I possibly can. So if you feel like you're needing some help and some guidance on this journey, that I'd encourage you just to click on the link below where it says book a call with me. Just click on that link, choose a time that works for you, and then we can just have a chat and just see where you are now, where you want to get to, and potentially how we can bridge that gap in the best possible way, either through working with me or through my program as well. So I'd love to be of service to you. So if you do feel like you're needing some guidance and some direction at this moment in time, just click on that link below, and I look forward to speaking to you soon. And make sure you hit the subscribe button below so that every week you get access to my latest videos, just teaching you specifically about how you can improve your marriage, how you can save your marriage, and how you can really heal from within, because I know when we're going through these sorts of challenging times, there can be a lot of internal pain, and ultimately I want to free you from that and help you to become the best version of you. Now, as I mentioned before, I know how confusing this whole experience is. Not only having to deal with potentially losing your family and not being sure if you're going to be okay and being able to survive financially and all of that stuff, but at the same time, what happens is there's just this world and the sea of information out there about what to do and how to do it, and I often find that there's so much contradictory information out there, and that can force you to get to a place where there is so much confusion inside. And so after working with women for the last 10 years and helping them in their own marriages and helping them in their difficult circumstances, I've seen patterns that work, and I've seen patterns that haven't worked. And I really want to make sure that you have the clarity around what it is that you need to do in order to move forward and to progress. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to talk you through 3 myths that I see and hear about a lot, and then what you can do to make sure that you are actually addressing and handling the problems that you're dealing with in the best way to maximize your chances of saving your marriage, but also going through the appropriate healing process internally within yourself. Now, the first myth that I see a lot is all around working on stopping the stonewalling and the shutting down of your husband or partner. Now, what I've observed is that when someone is stonewalling or shutting down, right, what you often find in those circumstances is that individuals are actually just operating from their own defense mechanisms. If I'm going through having a difficult conversation with someone, and then I'm totally afraid of being rejected or feeling inadequate or feeling like I'm not good enough, or having issues from childhood days where I may have struggled with authority, or I may have struggled with people who are aggressive and assertive towards me. If I struggle with that, then what's actually happening is my defense mechanism in that moment is potentially going to be to shut down, to not want to say what I need to say. Now, what this identifies is that there is some healing that needs to be done internally within myself so that I can get more comfortable with that conversation. Now, what happens is people will automatically look at that and go, he shuts down, he stonewalls, and that there's some sort of problem with him. But all that is a defense mechanism that's kicking in. In essence, what we're talking about is we're saying that that is where that person is wounded. And we're all wounded on some level. Every person acts in a different way with regards to circumstances they're in. Sometimes people get more aggressive when someone is confronting them with something that's a bit uncomfortable. Some people shut down because they don't know how to react. They don't know how to respond, and they're afraid of the outcome that's going to occur if they were to speak their truth. I mean, there's a whole range of different reasons, and that's why it's difficult to specifically say with just one person what that wound is. But my invitation to you in these circumstances is, rather than saying, how can I get him to stop stonewalling and shutting down? What I would encourage you to do is take some time to really get to understand your husband or partner at the deepest level. Really get to learn about him. Really understand what's going on inside of him. If you can understand that, then it's going to give you so much incredible information that's going to help you to communicate with him in the best possible way. And if the right environment is created, then he's probably going to open up and going to communicate in ways that are going to be greater and more productive for you, as opposed to just shutting down because he doesn't want to have to deal with those uncomfortable conversations, mainly because he's got these wounds inside. And I know it's so tempting to want to look at that specific symptom that we're dealing with, but we're actually wanting to get to the root cause. If you can understand the root cause more than your desire to understand the symptom, you're actually going to be able to fast track things and move things forward. So really take the time to get to know him and his world. Now you might be sitting there going, well, he doesn't say anything. How am I supposed to get to know him? Well, one of the most important things that we have to do is when we communicate, we have to remember that communication is actually 93% non-verbal. In other words, 7% is actually the words that you speak, and the rest of it is your body language and your tonality. So if you can understand that, then you can adapt your communication style to that person to create a safe environment to understand how to actually get the most out of him in that moment. And that might mean you actually opening up and being a little bit more vulnerable. It might mean that you actually say to them, look, honey, I totally understand this must be a really difficult time for you at this moment, and I just want to put the marriage to the side for a second. How are you doing? How are you holding up at this moment in time? And even just a simple statement like that with the right intent, with the right energy behind it, can actually have a huge difference in terms of being able to penetrate his heart and really understand what's going on inside. Because anytime there's aggression and frustration or anger, whatever negative emotion that we're talking about, it's going to prevent these people from being able to communicate in the best way possible. So in summary, firstly, understand where he's at, understand his world first, understand what's going on at the deepest level. And the way you do that is by the second part, which is actually asking him questions in a really beautiful and warm way, depending on the kind of individual that he is. Now, some individuals might react a little bit better if you get more assertive to them. Other people may react in a bit of a softer way or in a softer approach. So it's really about getting to know your husband or partner at the deepest level. Now, the good news is that the chances are you've been together with him for a long time. So you probably know a little bit more than you actually give yourself credit for. So really take that time to understand, step into his shoes and really understand his world. And by understanding his world, it's going to help you to adapt your communication, really get to understand where he's at, and then that's going to help you to get the most out of the conversation. Now, the second myth that I often hear a lot is, I need to work on my communication. Now, whilst in theory that makes sense, once again, and a little bit like the first point, we have to understand what is it that's preventing us from being able to communicate properly. And the most important thing that we have to remember here is emotional state. Emotional state is everything. And if people's emotional state is not in a place where they're feeling grounded, where they're feeling secure, where they're feeling like they're actually being understood and heard by the other person, then that's going to force them to get on the defensive. So because we're always acting from our wounds and operating from our defense mechanism, it makes it difficult to communicate with that person in a loving way. And at the end of the day, I'm a huge believer that, we come into this world pure love. That's who we are. And when we operate from fear, which is something that's learned, then that is going to negatively impact our ability to be able to penetrate the heart of the other person. So one of the most important things that we can do is really open our hearts up, really, really connect them with the love inside of us, and to just put it to the side for a second in terms of the marriage and say, how can I love you at this moment in time? Now that might be frustrating to hear because you're probably thinking, but he's the one that's gone off and had the affair, or he's the one that's gone off and said, look, I just want a divorce, etc. But you have to remember that there is always two sides to the story, and there's always going to be circumstances where the other person, believe it or not, is also in pain. Now, yes, there are going to be some exceptions, your narcissist, your sociopath. We're just going to put them to the side for a second. But all things being equal, we've got to remember that he's coming from a wounded place as well. But if you can take that time to really open up your heart and really heal internally within yourself, what's going to happen is that you're going to be able to communicate in such a beautiful, loving way. Now, does that mean that you don't feel pain? Does that mean that you're not sad or anything like that? Of course not. You're a human being. You're going to go through some pain. This is not a robotic approach to your growth or anything like that. This is about an authentic approach, which means sometimes we've got to step into our own vulnerability. But when we're filled with anger and hatred and resentment, and also sometimes feeling like everyone else and everything else is affecting you and impacting you, then that prevents you from being empowered. And my goal with anyone that I work with is to help them to empower themselves, to help them to become the best versions of themselves, to be able to create proper internal healing. And with internal healing, we can do amazing things, and we can create shifts in our lives and in our relationships in ways that you would never have imagined. And so important to then also make sure that you're doing the internal work on yourself. Now the question is how on earth and what on earth do I even do in those circumstances? Well, I always believe in taking the 4 levels, which is the physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual levels. And so physically, it's making sure that you engage in the right exercise, you engage in activities like yoga and so forth to just help you on a physical level just to feel better. Or it could be as simple as just going out for a walk in nature. Then you've got the mental side of things, which is making sure that you are feeding your mind the best thoughts that you possibly can, being conscious with how you think, rather than getting into that mindset of everything's going wrong and what could happen here and having fear-based thoughts. We want to have more loving-based thoughts. And then thirdly, you've got the emotional side, which is the area that I think most people forget about. We talk about mind, body, and spirit, but where are emotions and all of that? So we've got to remember that we've got to focus on our emotions. And that doesn't mean that we use our mind to constantly think about our emotions. It's giving ourselves the opportunity to actually feel those emotions and being present. And I've got an amazing tool that I use in my program, which really goes deep into some proper emotional healing, really creating some transformation and releasing of those emotions, so that if you are able to release those, it means that you just naturally start to feel more optimistic, more joyful, more loving, more happy. It's such an incredible approach, and without doubt, the most amazing tool that I've ever used in my life as well. So if you want to learn anything more about that, then like I say, just click on that link below which says book a call with me, and I can explain a little bit more about it and how it works and how it could potentially help you as well. And so then you go into the spiritual, and this is not about telling you what to believe in terms of religion. Everyone has their own beliefs, but it's connecting in with that higher power, that higher source of some sort, whatever you subscribe to, and really, really connecting in with that part of you, so that what it does is it allows you to know that you're going to be okay at that deepest level. It provides us with that sense of certainty in our own mind, knowing that we are supported and that we are guided. So working on those 4 levels can really help to create some massive shifts internally within yourself. And once again, if you're able to shift within, then your approach to communication is going to be so different. You're going to have a different energy, and your husband is going to respond much better to you in a much better way. And that's not to say what you're doing right now is wrong by any stretch of the imagination, but like anything, we have to develop skills. And when we are in a really emotional state, we naturally prevent ourselves from doing the best that we can. And it's no different if you're in business or you're playing sports, whatever. When you're filled with fear, you're naturally going to perform not quite as well as you would if you had confidence and faith and trust and love and all of those good emotions. So just keep that in the front of your mind, because they really do help in terms of creating some of those shifts in your life and in your marriage as well. Now, the third myth that I often hear is that you've just got to be more positive. Now, to me, that's just such a vague statement. We have to, yes, be positive. That's important. We've got to do the best that we can. But we've got to ask ourselves, what exactly are we working on in order to experience more of that positivity and more of that positive energy? And when people are going through these sorts of difficult challenges in their marriage, yes, they're worried about losing the family, but ultimately what they're afraid of is a few things. Feeling totally inadequate, feeling like they're going to be completely alone, feeling like they can't survive, and fearing the loss of love. That at the deepest level is what we're talking about, is the fear of the loss of love. So therefore, rather than just saying, I need to be more positive and I need to distract myself and I need to do all these other things which are going to just keep my mind off it and then I can just occasionally have this moment where I'm being positive, rather than going down that path, what we really want to be doing is going a little bit deeper and saying, how can I remember that love can never actually be taken away from me? And how can I heal that wound at the deepest level? And how can I make sure that I'm going to be okay no matter what? And then how can I also make sure that I feel like I'm enough just as I am? Because if you can work through that and heal that at the deepest level, then what's going to happen? You're going to have this rock solid foundation. You're going to feel so much more grounded and so much more empowered within you. And it is such a beautiful feeling. I can tell you right now, and I see it all the time with my clients, where they get into this incredible state of empowerment, and not in a really domineering way at all. It's just a beautiful feminine way towards real transformation. And once they do that, incredibly, what happens is that the other person starts to notice that and observes it. And then they want to also be a part of it as well. And so the energies are starting to align in a much more beautiful way. Now, once again, I know there might be a part of you going, why on earth do I have to be the one to make those changes? And my invitation to you is this. We live once on this earth. And the only thing that we can control in life is what goes on inside of us, inside of our hearts and inside of our minds. And if we're caught up in feeling annoyed and angry as to why we're the ones that have to change, what we're doing is completely disempowering ourselves. We're placing our happiness and our joy and our love in someone else's hands. And that is simply not going to serve you. And I totally get it if what I'm saying right now might be triggering you a little bit, but I ask you to just keep an open mind, because I promise you that when you create that level of empowerment inside of you and you heal those deepest wounds, you are going to experience a level of joy and happiness that you've never experienced before. That I can promise you. And another thing that I can promise you is that you absolutely have the ability within you to do it. I know the pain is so intense. I can tell you right now, I've had many times over the years, especially in the last sort of 15 to 20 years, where I've had bouts of depression and just felt so low and felt so inadequate. So I get the pain that comes with it. I really do. But I can tell you now that firstly, we have the ability to be able to create these shifts. And secondly, it's about making sure that you just get access to the right tools in order to be able to move forward and to create those shifts. And I'm telling you, it absolutely can happen. So if you're needing some support and you're needing some guidance at this moment, and it just feels like it's all too much and you're just really struggling to figure out what the right things to do are and so forth, then I'd love to be of service to you through my Authentic Relationship System training program. It's an amazing program that really goes deep into not only your own transformation and the transformation of your marriage, but also teach you specifics about male psychology as well. Because I think there are some really key aspects of male psychology that are important to understand so that you're able to adjust your way of communicating and creating shifts so you can maximize the outcomes that you're looking for and really connecting with your husband in the best possible way, as well as those internal shifts that you need to generate so that you can maximize your chances of saving your marriage and creating the most extraordinary life that you deserve. And you absolutely can do it as well. So if it is something that feels right for you and you enjoy this material and you want to go a little bit deeper into all of this stuff, then as I said, I'd love to be of service to you. Just click on the link below in the description section where it says book a call with me. Just choose a time that works for you and I'll contact you at that scheduled time. and we can just have a chat and just see where you are now, where you want to get to, how we can bridge that gap. And I'll also demonstrate to you just how incredible this beautiful community that we've got set up as well, and how they can be instrumental in your own growth, especially providing you with the support that you need and really getting to a place of empowerment internally within yourself. Thank you so much for watching this video. I really appreciate it. If you've liked it, make sure you hit the like button below. If you want to get more videos like this, make sure you hit the subscribe button as well as that bell notification so you get notified every week. And make sure you let me know in the comment section below just what your biggest takeaway from this video is. Always love to hear the comments, and I'll make sure to reply to each and every one of you as well. So thank you so much for that. And if you want to learn how to save a marriage after separation, just click this video above. And if you want to learn how to give them space in a classy way when on the verge of a divorce, just click this video above. Thank you so much for watching this video. You've been amazing. I can't wait to talk to you in the next one. Take care.